world without violence against women and girls. Imagine a world without violence. This is the world we want for all. Thank you so much for coming out on such a cold, dreary day in November to help us launch this most important campaign. My name is Jan Sosiak, and I represent GRANquinte, a member group of the Grandmothers Advocacy Network, a nonpartisan network of volunteers working across Canada to advocate for the human rights of grandmothers and vulnerable children in sub-Saharan Africa. GRAN has three main goals, one of which is gender equality, including working to end gender-based violence, which we know crosses cultural, socioeconomic, and geographic boundaries. It was this third goal that led GRANquinte to become involved in the United Nations 16 Days of Activism from November 25th, today, which is International Day for the Elimination of Violence Against Women, until December 10th, International Human Rights Day. 16 Days of Activism is an international campaign, a time to galvanize action to end violence against women and girls around the world. The campaign calls on governments and citizens to intensify their efforts, both domestically and globally, toward the eradication of such violence. Orange, as a bright and optimistic color, has been chosen to represent hope and the campaign's goal of a future free of violence. The color has become a key theme, unifying all activities, with buildings and landmarks lit and decorated in orange to bring global attention to the initiative. Thus, these 16 days have become known as the Orange Campaign. As Reverend Aruna Alexander, chair of the local United Nations Association branch, remarked, violence against women is an injustice of epic proportions and a strain on all of our societies. End of quote. A staggering 1 in 3 women will experience physical and/or sexual assault at some point in her life. And in some countries, the numbers are as high as 7 in 10. Violence against women and girls is one of the most widespread, persistent, and devastating human rights violations in our world today. It affects women of all backgrounds. It happens everywhere. Particularly vulnerable are young women, refugees, migrants, minorities, indigenous peoples, older women, and populations affected by conflict and natural disasters. We know that women will remain at risk as long as they lack representation in the halls of power. That's why it's important to increase women's participation in public life, as leaders in their communities, as elected officials, and as decision makers. For far too long, impunity, silence, and stigma have allowed violence against women to escalate to pandemic proportions. The time for change is now. Today, GRANquinte calls you to action during these 16 days of activism to draw attention to the various forms of violence that prevent women and girls from reaching their full potential. I now invite you to light your candles or flashlights or whatever light you have if you remember to bring one. We will observe 1 minute of silence as we reflect on the many women and girls here in Belleville, across Canada, and throughout the world who have suffered from physical and psychological violence, harassment, and other forms of gender discrimination.